So we've been talking a lot about sex this season. It's true. So I feel the need to get everybody up to speed. Okay, I'll try and do it really quickly. It's really interesting that Matthew, in his genealogy of Jesus, includes what Bishop John Spong calls 4 shady ladies. 4 ladies with a past. Tamar, who is forced to sleep with her father-in-law in order not to be thrown out of the family, and in doing so continues the lineage of Israel. Rahab, a foreigner and a prostitute, offers herself to someone in the armies of Israel when taking Jericho, saves her family, continues the lineage of Israel. Ruth slips in under Boaz's blanket, and when Boaz awakes in the morning, feels he needs to do the honorable thing and marry her, which is great because she too is a foreigner and a widow, and that just means there are like 18 strikes against her. And finally, Bathsheba, a little bit more famous, is taken by King David, who then has to have her husband murdered in order to hide his indiscretion because she ends up pregnant with Solomon. And the point of all that being, I think, is that there is nothing that we can be part of or ashamed of or regretful for that will change our ability to be midwives of the sacred story. It's a powerful, powerful message in that genealogy. And then, last week it was barrenness, all right? So we went from all the women involved in sexual scandals to all the women who in our mythology were named to be barren. And in our mythology, when somebody is barren and then invited to have a child, that is an invitation for us to believe the unbelievable. All right? They know that 80-year-old women didn't have babies. We know that. But it goes deeper. An invitation to believe, trust, embrace a new world. How does sex make it into this week? So, we have a virgin birth. Most of the larger religions ensured that their most important figures, or even empires, ensured their most important figures, kings, were born of virgins. So, for example, Caesar, Augustus at the time, was considered to be born by an implantation of one of the gods to his mother. It's very interesting when Joseph finds out that Mary is pregnant. He thinks about it a lot and decides that he's going to do the honorable thing. And the honorable thing in that day and age, when you found out that a woman was pregnant, well, let me give you the backstory here, is if she was raped, there were 2 ways of dealing with it. If she was raped in the city, she would be stoned, all right? Because if she was raped in the city, well, she would have screamed. Somebody would have heard her, right? So she obviously didn't scream, which meant that she colluded, so we're going to stone her. If she was raped in the countryside, they thought, oh, well, if she screamed, nobody would hear her, so, all right, she didn't collude, so we won't stone her. I'm not making this stuff up. We know that. So, if the story goes that Mary is in fact going to have a child, and it isn't Joseph's, Joseph, in actual fact, is a really good guy. Joseph's going, oh, okay, all right, I'm not going to report her to anybody. I'm not going to, they're in the countryside, so she wasn't going to be stoned, and I'm just going to quietly send her home. Quietly send her home to be with her parents. But then an angel arrives, and we know what an angel means, don't we? The angel is calling us to step up. The angel is saying, no, there is a new story waiting to be born here, and you are going to have to midwife it. And so the angel says, I'm glad you're a good guy, Joseph, You're not going to say anything. You're not going to bring disgrace upon her. That's great. But we need you to be bigger than a good guy right now. We need you to midwife a new story. So you need to take her as your wife. And that's where the new story begins. So, this is what I think the invitation is for today. I recognize that during this time of Advent, we've got all these women-based images and metaphors, right? We've got pregnancy, we've got barrenness. And it's always a struggle for me to go, okay, how do we make sure that the men feel included in this story? I mean, even this image, which I love, chalice, right? A chalice, recognizing that we're being open to something. Even that is actually a symbol for a womb, right? So many of these birth stories, they're born out of women's experience. So I think today we need to talk about men's experiences. And I think Joseph opens the door for us to do this. The invitation to Joseph is, step up. We need you to be more than a good guy right now. We need you to be courageous. We need you to get beyond your ego. We need you to not worry what the rules are, because that is what it's going to take to create a new story here in Palestine today. I'm going to share with you a couple of video clips of men who in the last month, I think, have acted with extraordinarily courage, foresight, and humility. Not just to be good guys, but to break open the possibility for the new way of the human race living on the planet. And one of them's Canadian. So I don't know if you caught the clip with Gord Downie when he was honored by the Grand Chief of the First Nations. And can you remember what name they gave him? One who, Star Walker, walks with the stars. Gord Downie, who, once he was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, decided that he was going to live until he died, and putting forth the invitation to all Canadians to further act with peace and reconciliation to build bridges with our Indigenous brothers and sisters. I'll just play a bit of this clip where they are now honoring him. This clip is very different. You'll remember that we prayed with tens of thousands of people across the world last week for those who are at Standing Rock, who many people are convinced represent another story, an invitation to the planet to try and live out of a different relationship with creation and thus with one another. Last Sunday, 2,000 American Army veterans showed up to circle the camp for the purpose of protecting and standing with that camp. And I'm hoping you can hear the words of apology that the spokesperson provides. Wesley Clark Jr. is the son of the person who I think was the head American general appointed to NATO. Joseph Stories. The man who heard the invitation to give birth to a new story, a story that speaks of hope and peace and joy and compassion, a story that builds bridges and creates a place at the table for everyone.